right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Corona Geek. Here, the official official hangout just devoted to mobile app development using the Corona SDK. I had a whole bunch of things there in my mind that I wanted to say, and I couldn't get them all out at one time. Today, we're joined in the studio with Brian Burton. Hey, Brian.
Hello.
And then we've got David Rangel. Hey, David.
Hi.
And of course, we got Walter Liu. Hey, Walter. How you doing?
Hello.
So this is an exciting show today, guys. We've got a lot of stuff going on. It's a brand new year, and so we've got a few announcements that we want to make and kind of let everybody know what's going on, where we've been and where we're headed. So this is kind of the road ahead show. So before we kind of move too far, let's go ahead and announce our T-shirt winner. So Brian, tell us who that's going to be.
Number 7.
Number 7. Lucky number 7. I think it's number 7. Number 7 is Mike Hovald. So Mike, we're gonna send you out a Corona Labs T-shirt. Let me make sure to mark this. And so for anybody who doesn't know, basically every week we do a T-shirt giveaway. So if you want to enter to win, then you have to go and sign up. And up to this point, we've used coronageek.com/giveaway as a sign-up form for that. So if you want to be a part of that, go to that address and sign up. And basically all you have to do is give us your name and email address and things like that, so that if you win, we can send you the T-shirt. And also, it would be nice if you would follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Google+, just about any place that you want to, and as many places as you want to. All right, so there's our T-shirt winner. Thank you for that, Brian. And let's talk about last year. No. Let's talk about promo codes. Isn't there something that you want to tell me about, Brian?
Oh, is this mine? Okay. Yes. We are, because Corona Geek has now been incorporated into Corona Labs, and because I thought, it'd be really cool if we saw the developer community create lots of new great apps. I've decided to give a discount of $5 on all of my Corona-oriented books, which is actually all of them. So if you use the coupon code Corona Geek, no spaces, all lowercase, you can log into my website and get a discount of $5 off of any or all of the books.
Excellent.
So we'll have all the links and everything in the show notes. So and the Corona Geek, how we spelled it, and though it should be fairly obvious, and we'll be ready to go.
Yeah, and definitely we'll have the links for that. And you also discounted that on Amazon, correct?
Yes, I also discounted I had to break it into 3 parts on Amazon, so I just discounted the first book by $5.
Okay.
So if you are more comfortable buying through Amazon, you can go over to Amazon, do my mobile app development with Corona Part 1 is currently $4.99. And this is a limited time thing, so you need to jump on and do it, and don't wait.
Yeah, so you need to
make great apps for 2013.
That's right, and this is gonna end on what, the 21st? I mean the 21st, the 31st.
The 31st will be the last date, but yeah.
Okay, and you have I'm not even gonna try to pronounce it here. What's the second one there? The Korean.
Oh, the second one is our Portuguese version of the beginning mobile app development. Wow. So I've discounted all versions of it.
Excellent. Well, very cool. Yeah, so we'll definitely have a link to that all in the show notes. So yeah, as you.
And we do have a Spanish version coming. The Spanish version's getting very close.
Oh, very.
So how many languages is it now?
This Spanish will be the 3rd language.
Okay.
But we are working on about 5 or 6 others. So.
Cool.
It's just it takes a while to translate all those words.
Right.
Imagine it took a while to write them in the first place.
We just paste it into Google Translate.
I thought about that.
Just running?
I've tried to travel with
Google
translators
Translate's free. It should be instantaneous.
It's all digital, right? Just
yeah, it's all
there.
bits. It's just algorithms.
The problem is it tries to translate the code too, and that doesn't work too
that's
well in the
true.
Corona interpreter.
Oh, that's like AppleScript. AppleScript supported multiple languages. That was funky.
Yeah, we
That
sometimes
was great.
we'll have to talk about my theory on languages. I mean, as a programmer, different languages are akin to different programming languages. So it's really just a way to communicate information, right? Whether it's a linguistic
Yes.
thing or a programming thing. So I think eventually we'll need to refactor and maybe create our own language. And it might just be code. We might all be just speaking code at some point.
I'll speak in
What if
if then for
one of
next.
these hangouts, we should just speak in ones and zeros.
Yeah.
I remember one time as a student, one time we would send each other. We wrote this program that converts string text into ones and zeros and send them back to each other just for the hell of it, and that was kind of funny.
That's a great story, Walter.
The Corona Geek hangout, so
Such a
It's
good
what
story.
computer scientists do.
So tomorrow, all my emails will be in hex code to everybody in the company.
Yes.
Somebody should create an app
Good
that
luck
does
to
it.
you
That'd be
all.
great. Yeah. Somebody should create an app that does it. That would be great. All right, so let's talk here a moment about 2012. There's a lot of stuff going on, and first of all, let's address the elephant in the room. Basically, this morning, Corona Labs posted. You don't have an elephant in your room, David? Or Brian? This morning, Corona Labs announced that Corona Geek has officially joined the family, which is, I think, fantastic. So
Yes.
So for anybody who didn't see that announcement, who doesn't know, Corona Labs, Corona Geek is now part of Corona Labs, which I think is great. I mean, it's just, I'm excited. I'm actually having a hard time containing it, and without just spazzing out all over the place. And there's going to be a lot of things going on, a lot of great things, a lot of great opportunities for 2013, and I think we need to talk about those here in a minute. But before we do that, let's look back at 2012. And selfishly, I want to start with Corona Geek, just because of the announcement. Last year we talked with Brian Burton, who is here on the show with us. You were actually in fact, you didn't get labeled number 1. Maybe you should get labeled number 0. You were in fact our first guest. So our first interview was with you, and that was fantastic. That was the seed for everything to come. Then we talked with, and of course, I'm sorry, these aren't actually in particular order. But during the year, we talked with Dean Murphy from Echo, as he's a Corona developer. We talked with Jordan Schutz from Ninja Pig Studios. He's a developer. We talked with Jay Jennings, developer of the Corona Project Manager, and he's also a Corona developer. We talked with Eric Dick from Taps for Tap, which has to do with app marketing and promotion, things like that. We talked with Alex Sosa from Quickshare, who's the creator of Quick. We talked with Richard Harris from Luna Ads, which is app promotion, app marketing, that sort of thing. Riley Newsham, Corona developer. Mohamed Hamedi, so with Game Minion, which is becoming Corona Cloud. We talked with Rob Allison, who is an app developer who did some amazing stuff, and we also talked with Michelle Fernandez, who has also written a book on developing games using the Corona SDK. So it was a very active year, and apart from and with all that, we also participated in the Big Corona Meetup, which was a 6-hour event. That extravaganza, yeah.
That's right.
So I like to tell my friends who don't care that I got to talk with people from Texas and California and Hawaii, and Dean was on there from the UK, and it was an international event, and so that was.
Let's not forget Massachusetts.
Oh, sorry, Massachusetts, Boston, Connecticut, all that, yeah, all
Boston.
that. Oh, Boston, all that stuff. Everybody was there. Thank you, Brian. So I think that was very cool, and it to me it's an example of what's possible and just a taste of what's to come in the new year. Okay, So that's again a little selfish side of things for 2012. But Corona Labs proper also did a huge amount of stuff in 2012 that we need to talk about. So there was they expanded the team. There was Corona Cloud. There was Corona Enterprise. You started Project Gluon. What else? What else am I missing? I mean, there was a huge public release with iOS 6 and iPhone 5 and all the things that went along with that. So, am I missing anything from 2012?
We announced that I was going to say we announced quick that Electronic Arts is using Corona Enterprise and they put out a game.
Yeah.
They're working on others too.
Earlier in the year, the Universal Studios did a promotional app with the Lorax app for a movie. Also, a lot of great people doing just every week we're announcing great apps of the week from our community.
Yeah, there was. I mean, I didn't get to get a count on that, but there were tons of apps.
Every week. I mean, there's no shortage of great applications for to be showcased.
Yeah, and the community also grew to over 200,000 registered members, right?
Yep.
So that's a good thing.
It's over
10 million builds.
Oh, sorry, Brian. I was going to say it is over 200,000 developers have actually downloaded and activated Corona.
That's
exciting.
Yeah.
And then over the holidays, there's this one app that's it's called Fun Run. It hit #2 on the right behind the Google Maps app. It's #2 right behind the Google Maps app, and it's become, I think, one of the top grossing apps out there, and that's straight from our community. And so
that's fantastic.
Great. Yeah.
I'm actually logging in as we speak. I'll log into App Annie as we speak, and I'll tell you what what's the highest what are the highest ratings it's hit, because I don't know the exact numbers.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
On top of that, we've just in terms of our family, and I mean not just you, Charles, joining us, but we had just a bunch of great members from all over our community that who wanted to kind of join the family, and we talked to them, and we felt they could really make a great contribution. So we're really looking for, I think, this year we really got a great team together. We pulled together inside and outside to really do that.
Yeah. How many people are in the ambassador program? I mean, it's growing, right?
We have right around 65 people, 65 to 70 people, and I think within the next month we're gonna start opening it up again for growth again. We'll probably get a good spurt right after that.
Yeah, and there's ambassadors in, I mean, all around the world. I mean, I can't even. I'd have to go look at the list, but it's all over.
No, we do. We have. I think less than half are in the U.S. Everyone else is obviously around the world, and we have everywhere. A bunch in Europe. We have a bunch in Asia, even Indonesia and the Philippines, and I think the only continent where we don't have anyone in Africa yet. But everywhere else we have someone.
I think we should fix that. We got to fix that. So
yeah, we should.
Yeah. So
and then after that, we have to get one on the moon. So because Lua means moon in Portuguese. So.
Oh, there you go. Oh, that would be cool. I tell you what, Walter, we need to work that out.
That's a high priority.
I think that would be awesome. I think we should work that out. That should be the goal, because you know what? If we set that goal and if we fall short, we don't succeed, we still will have, we still will have reached so far that failure would be a great success, right?
Failure is not an option.
Yeah, I think let's do it. Let's do it. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to figure that out, man. That's a way to do that. Lots of great things happened in 2012. So, can you guys talk about what that means in 2013? What's the road ahead? Anybody?
Walter?
I'm still sobering up from the holidays.
Well, I do have a new book coming out. It's focused on the learning to program using Corona. It's for the absolute beginner. It assumes absolutely no programming background, and the whole focus of it is teaching how to program, and as you're doing it, you're going to be developing apps. And that should be available within the next few weeks. I'm finishing up another chapter hopefully today, and I'm actually using it in a class this semester. So I'm very motivated to get it finished.
Would you say what's the age range on that? What do you think is the earliest somebody can start?
Well, I think you could go down probably as low as junior high school.
Okay.
I've had success teaching 7th and 8th graders how to program in the past.
Okay.
Going much younger than that, you run into developmental issues. So, not that there aren't children that can program at that age. It's just unusual that prior to about 7th grade, that 13, 14-year-old conceptualizing some of the abstract concepts can be really difficult.
Okay. Yeah.
And I can give you the whole explanation if you want to hear my teacher rant, but I'll save that for another time.
Okay. Because one of the things that, and it's, I don't know if you guys already own this or not, but one of the things that keeps rolling around in my head is this concept of Corona kids, and it's just a totally off the cuff. It only exists in my own head, I think, unless you guys have talked about it internally before I got here. But it just seems like it would be a great kind of thing, and it would make for a good book. So that's why I asked, what's the age range on that?
I think it's a great idea, and actually, we'll talk about it more, obviously. But every week we have a couple of universities or high schools that approach us and say, "Hey, I'm already using Corona in some form," and they want to get licenses and other stuff. There's also a great story. I don't know if I think I've told you about it before, Brian. I'm not sure if I've told you, Charles. There's a here in Menlo Park, which is right by Palo Alto. There's a Menlo App Academy, and it was started by 2 kids with help from their dads. They live near here, and what they've done is they've started an academy for teaching kids how to develop apps. They started natively, and so the first session it was completely native, and they were using Objective-C. And now, as of I don't know, a month ago or something, they switched over to using Corona, and they love it. And it's been a fantastic success. They've been in Forbes and a bunch of other places because the students they get these classes of about 10 students, their peers, so they're all like 12 to 14-year-olds, learning over a period of a week how to develop apps, and then it's the 2 kids teaching it. It's not the parents. It's the 2 kids that are teaching it. And then what they've also done is they've gotten some of the kids to become assistants for the next time around, and they're thinking about opening another branch of the Menlo App Academy now in Berkeley or somewhere around there. So it's been fantastic. They've done really well, and we're in touch with them all the time. And we should involve them somehow. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah. There's I just think there's a huge interest and a huge need, and we've already seen. From Bubble Ball and all that other stuff like that. Riley Newsom's out there. There's a bunch of developers who are, they're not even of age yet to be able to publish to the App Store. That's the crazy part of it. That's the way that I think to measure the yardstick of success is even the App Stores are like, oh, we didn't really think about that when we set this up. So it's interesting topic. So yeah, I'll look forward to your book, Brian, on that. I definitely want to talk to you more about it. So let's talk about one of these other things, like Corona Cloud. So Walter, can you talk more about that? We did an interview with Mohamed Hamedi. And he did a great job of kind of outlining things and stuff like that. But what do you think about what's next? What's going on?
I think it goes back to even just this whole talk about how kids are teaching. I mean, from the beginning, we've always believed in what we call the verb we use is coronify. We've always believed in coronifying technologies, and so with Corona SDK, we're like, hey, now we set out to have this goal where say, anyone can code. Similar to how the movie Ratatouille, anyone can cook, but also that anyone can really kind of create, a masterpiece, the #1 app out there. And with Bubble Ball, when Robert Ney, the 14-year-old, did that, we proved that anyone could do it. And since then we've seen tremendous usage by all sorts of developers, from more folks like Robert Ney to all the way up to folks like Electronic Arts. So we've always believed in really coronifying technologies, and when we started talking to the gaming guys, they really shared that same philosophy. But with all that back-end technology. And it's interesting when we think about some of the cool apps that are being done today. You really need to have that server component that really connects your app to the cloud. And it takes a lot of effort if you wanted to do some sort of back end, kind of like that, like how Zynga does it, or all these other big guys do it. But we say, we want to make that kind of technology available to everyone. Not just somebody who has lots of money to throw at the problem. But we want to say, everyone should be able to do great things with the back end and connect it. And I think there's also just been this huge vacuum with just basic higher level things like even the things as basic as leaderboards that people took for granted even 1 or 2 years ago. Suddenly everyone's like, well, hey, I don't know how to do this cross-platform anymore. So we're like, well, gee, why don't we make the simple problems easy, which is kind of our hallmark, but then also eventually allow everyone to do all the cool customization stuff that they want to do on the back end also. So that's kind of the general philosophy and general approach. And so we're really pushing hard to really integrate the Game Minion stack. We want to offer it as a separate product, but we also want to really tightly integrate the two technologies together, the Corona SDK for the application and the Corona Cloud for the backend, so that it's a seamless integration. So things like when you push build for Corona Simulator, you don't have to think about clumsy API keys or secret keys. It's all just done for you. So as soon as your app's out on the store, if you go to our website, the goal will be that you'll be able to see all that information as soon as you log in with the same credentials that you log in with our forum. We can even see a future where widget or storyboard. Maybe we can host layouts and you can change them dynamically. One of the big problems we hear from people is, hey, I want to publish an app, but that App Store approval process takes forever. What if we could kind of let you instantaneously update things with our cloud backend? What if we had great frameworks around that? So there's a ton of stuff that we want to do. And so we're barely scratching the iceberg with what we're pushing for is a V1 this quarter. I don't think we've officially announced any official launch date, but we think it's coming pretty soon, much sooner than you might think. But we have lots more ambitions than just what you might think of on the surface from what people might already know about with Game Minion.
I think you bring up an interesting point, is the fact that it's becoming more of a standard practice. The whole app industry hasn't been around that long,
Right.
And so it seems like everything goes through an adolescence and then it goes and grows into a maturity stage, and apps are kind of in that same place. And it seems like developers, it starts with the developers, growing into that position. So they start out by trying to how do I build the app. And then once they get that down, they become, it becomes more of a conversation of, well, how do I integrate it with things? And then it becomes more, and then pretty soon, well, yeah, every app has to have a leaderboard in it. Every app has, back-end services. I mean, you wouldn't possibly put out an app that doesn't have that in it. When the apps were first being published, you could get away with a lot of stuff, and then now today the bar has been raised and people are expecting more and more and more. So it just seems natural that you would want to make that as easy as possible. And from what I see, Corona its talent is being able to make it cross-platform so that it's unified, so that you implement it the same way regardless of what you're going to be publishing to, and you do it in as few lines of code as possible. And that seems to be the magic that Corona offers.
Right, exactly.
And I was going to say, the response we've gotten from when we opened up when we announced the Corona Cloud and we told people to sign up for the closed beta, we've had tons of people email in and saying they would like to try it. And the thing they most often say is they'd love it if it was just as easy to integrate all that stuff as it is to build the apps in Corona today. And there's a real need there because no one wants to mess around with a whole host of other accounts and APIs and all sorts of things. And so if we can make some of these things much easier, I think it's a huge thing for developers.
Right. So right now there's a transition period, right? I mean, Game Minion provided a Lua library or a file that you could include into your project, and then there was all this, you'd have to implement that part of the API into your app, right? So can you talk about the plans for coronafying it, as you say? I mean, making.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that we realize is that, if you want to do even these basic things like a leaderboard, or, I mean, just focusing on that, that's just one small area. But let's just focus there just to give an example. If you went through the extra saying, well, what do I need to do to create a cross-platform leaderboard? I have to have the server that stores the data. I have to have some sort of REST API to communicate with it. But that's not, even if you just had that, you still have to do more, right? You have to say, okay, well, how do I create an interface to display the leaderboard inside the application? How do I create a dashboard on the website to really manage that leaderboard? There are just a lot of moving parts, and it's hard enough just to produce your application, produce your game, to finish it and get it done and submit to the App Store. To add this extra layer on top of that it would just create a lot of activation energy. And so what we want to do is offer you kind of a library that allows you to deal with some of these standard interfaces really easily. So it's not just kind of the back-end network API communication, but it's also this nice front-end interface. And that will really kind of coronify that process for someone who wants to integrate a back-end piece. Oh, okay, I just do 2 lines, show leaderboard, show this other thing, I mean, whatever it is. We want to make that super easy.
Okay. Yeah, I think of it as, building your own computer. I mean, even today, you can still buy a motherboard, a case, memory, all this stuff, and you can build your own computer. Why would you? Why would you when you can go out and get something that by any standard is an excellent machine. Sure, there may be some cases where you want a better graphics card, or you want some kind of something, but for the most part, it's not really a benefit for most people to build their own machine these days. And I think that's kind of what Corona Cloud is talking about. Sure, you could roll your own cloud service, but you'd have to spin up the servers, you'd have to write the software, you'd have to integrate it with your code, you'd have to do all these types of things, and then when you hit number 1 on some app store, you'd have to worry about that, and you'd have to maintain it all the time. All these, there's no benefit. Why would you want to do that when you can just plug into something that is already being offered and maintained, and just move forward?
Yep, just higher levels of abstraction every time. Just makes people's lives easier.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, I just can't akin it to that. So let's talk about gluons. Since this is a geek show, let's talk about gluons.
We need to get like Stephen Hawking in the room or something, because it's a very complicated subject in physics. So Project Gluon, I talked about a while ago, is this notion of plugins, right? So one of the things that we realized was we needed a better kind of way of being able to add on new features, new third-party services in a scalable fashion. We tried plugging into various ad networks in the past, and it just became it just ground our development to a halt in a lot of ways. And so we decided, well, we need to hold off on new third-party services, new ad networks, and new analytics services, and all these other guys until we had a real good infrastructure for doing that. So Project Gluon was started to really make that happen. And so what we want to do there is we have kind of the key infrastructure there today, and basically we now have a plugin SDK, which essentially is what Enterprise is. The Enterprise is essentially a plugin SDK. And what we're doing is we're doing this in stages. We're saying, first we're going to open this up to some of the more popular third-party services, these ad networks that have been coming to us, or these other kind of nice folks who want to add like analytics or other solutions or other monetization things that might be interesting to people, our developers. And then later on, we want to say, okay, well, how can we open this up to more and more people? Our goal eventually is to create some sort of marketplace where even anyone in our community might be able to submit a plugin, and that plugin would be immediately available to the entire developer community. And so the way we envision this all working is you don't necessarily have to download these plugins yourself and figure out which plugins you want to add to your system. It'll probably be some sort of like config.lua setting where you specify what are the plugins you want, and when you hit build from the Corona simulator, our build system will automatically kind of integrate all those plugins in for you and give them to your device, and then you're off and going. You don't have to do all this extra download of other third-party plugins and install them in some funny folder. We want to try to minimize that. And so hopefully that gives you a sense of where we're headed with plugins and how it's going to be incredibly easy this year. So we're not all the way there yet. I think some of these pieces I've discussed aren't there yet, but that's the direction we're headed. Right now we've laid kind of key foundational pieces so that certain folks can write plugins. We even had some folks in our community say, "Hey, I want to make this library better." And we're like, okay, and they've given us enough feedback where we're like, they really know what they're talking about. So let's just try and see what happens in this case. So we're working on an improvement to the network library actually. Because we've had a lot of folks say, well, we want this feature, that feature, and one of the guys who's been just incredibly vocal was like, hey, well, why don't I just write it for you? And we sort of did kind of a horse trade, and so he's doing it, and it's great. So hopefully I'll have more to talk about that soon. He's gotten iOS, Android, and Mac done, and the last piece is just a Windows simulator, getting that to work on Windows. So hopefully it gives you a sense of kind of how powerful this whole project is allowing us to it's just really paying a lot of dividends for us in many different ways, and we're even considering looking at certain subset of our library, saying, hey, why don't we open source some of these things and maybe have the community invite them to help make it better. So there you go. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think of this, and this is the way that I always try to relate one thing that I know that exists to something else that's kind of a new concept or whatnot, is the way WordPress works. WordPress there's a core WordPress blogging engine, and then there's all these plugins, and if you go and look at their repository, there's tens of thousands of plugins, and each one of these plugins is something that somebody wanted to do to extend the platform, but it doesn't touch the core code, because the core code, if everybody dabbled and messed with the core code, then that would cause a nightmare. So the core code is always there. It provides its base functionality, and then there's all these add-ons. Is that kind of what we're talking about?
Yep, that's exactly it.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and I have to say that one of the things that I like about the Corona Labs team, okay, and this isn't lip service, this is just honest feedback, is that you guys are open to ideas, and I mean open to ideas, not just open to ideas even when you're talking with each other. And this is one of the things that I've noticed from internal discussions, and even when we were talking with each other about what Corona Geek was and what it could be and things like that, was it was an open conversation. So if you left the room and you didn't say something that you should have, it's your own fault. And I really like that about you guys, because it says that there's no such thing as a bad idea. Some things are better to implement now or later, but there's really no such thing as a bad idea. It's just a matter of whether or not it works at the time. And
right. I think I agree with that. I think it's like there's no bad ideas. There's just not. It's just whether or not it's the right time.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And I really like that. I really like that because that open environment like that makes it to some place where you don't feel like, obviously you don't want to just come out with some crazy ideas, but sometimes maybe if as long as it's relevant, that crazy idea may be something that nobody had ever thought of, and I like that. And so yeah, bringing the community into that and allowing them to be able to maybe eventually provide value to the platform would be a huge thing, I think. So okay, so that's kind of Corona Enterprise. That's Gluon's, but Corona Enterprise is part of that, you said. So do you guys want to talk about Corona Enterprise at all?
I think that's something that we started 6 months ago, and we're going to continue to add features to that. Okay. I think more broadly, if we think about just the Corona core itself, which is what everyone benefits when we add more stuff to Corona core, and we're highly focused on just adding more and more features to Corona. And And I think plugins is going to play a big part of that, just because even for ourselves, for internal use, it's already paying dividends, where we are actually able to accelerate a lot of things. Like we actually said, hey, you know what, now that we have moved all the ad network plugins into plugins, why don't we get iAds out finally? And that's what we did. And then and we're like, hey, why don't we get some of this other stuff out? And we did. It was just really easy. So we're already seeing benefits just for ourselves, and so we expect more and more of these features to be rolled out into plugins. I think the one interesting thing to note with Enterprise is, what we're probably going to do is, in terms of some of these plugins with Corona SDK, they'll be kind of pre-baked into the core engine, so you don't really get a choice. And so we'll choose what that core subset is, and then all the extra stuff you have to choose and opt into with Corona SDK. With Enterprise, we're probably going to actually make the core even more like bare bones. So even things that are pre-baked in the SDK core may not be pre-baked into the Enterprise engine, and you just have to manually opt in, and that's an easy kind of checkbox you add in Xcode to make that happen. But that's probably the one interesting distinction for plugins with respect to SDK and Enterprise. Beyond that, I think one of the kind of big features that hot ticket items that we also been working on is, of course, the new graphics engine. And so we've actually, I think back to where I started my career as at Adobe on the Illustrator team, and worked on a text engine that folks like the After Effects guys and Photoshop used. And so we've really been hard at work at thinking about, okay, well, how do we create the next generation graphics engine that really kind of supports all the great richness that everyone wants, that we've been wanting to do for a long time. And how do we do it in such a way that we still kind of maintain that special kind of Corona-ness about our API, the fact that it's so accessible, and we want to maintain that moving forward, but kind of still add even more power and functionality. And so we see that we're probably going to have to do a new, and so we're working on we worked on a new architecture, and so now we're hard at work at really trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we kind of do this right and make sure that it can sustain us for many years to come.
And I want to make a quick point on going back for a second on Corona Enterprise. So for people that may be watching or will watch in the future that don't exactly know offhand what Corona Enterprise does, the key point is it allows a developer to include any native library in their Corona project, right? And so usually with Corona you develop in Lua. If we haven't put something in there for you to use, or we haven't put in, let's say, a QR code library, which we haven't actually, and you want to use something for QR codes, you can't. But with Corona Enterprise, you can. And so you can call it an Objective-C native library, or a C++ library, or a Java library for Android. Now, there's a couple of key points here, and there's been some misunderstanding in the community about this, and we want to we've taken the feedback and we want to be more and more clear about it. We are not emphasizing Corona Enterprise to the detriment of Corona SDK. And actually, the graphical thing that Walter just mentioned is one sort of something that shows that. When he talks about, hey, we need to take the graphical engine to the next level for Corona SDK, he's talking about the core engine, the actual Corona SDK engine, and when we do that, every single user of Corona SDK will benefit. Now, so will Corona Enterprise users, right? But this is really at the core engine level. Any other feature we add, whenever we add new things, that's also at the Corona SDK core engine level. The reality is Corona Enterprise doesn't impact the issues around Corona Enterprise are not around core engine functionality. It's much more around the hooks for the native libraries that I mentioned, and also certain workflow things that we're also adding on there. So we are not, by having Corona Enterprise, we are by no means taking away emphasis or features from what is the core SDK engine that all our many thousands of developers use today.
I think that's an interesting point, because one of the things that attracts me to Corona is this idea that I can get up and running quickly, that my learning curve is short, that I don't have to learn 2 or 3 or 4 platforms in order to be able to create apps. I can use one code base, I can develop quickly, and I can publish to multiple platforms. That probably appeals to a great number of people. In fact, there's 200,000 active registered users who at some level that's appealed to them. There's a percentage probably of people who are willing to go a little further if they want to learn Objective-C or work in Java or do something else. Am I right? And that's what Corona Enterprise affords them the opportunity to be able to do if they want to go that if they're a heavy user, to use an inappropriate term.
I think that's right. It's also it's in a large way it's dictated by their app's needs, right? So right. I mentioned QR codes, for example. Even though we know anecdotally there's a good number of Corona developers that want to use QR codes, it's really a small minority, right? And so if we were going to put QR code functionality into Corona, well, it just means we can't do some other feature in the near term. Like it's one or the other, right? And so we just have not prioritized QR codes highly. But if you're a developer and you're doing this business app that needs to scan QR codes, well, you can use Corona Enterprise and put in your own library. And so it's driven by the needs. And or another example is there's big studios using Corona that need to integrate some internal analytics libraries they use. It's internal to them. We're never going to put that into the core engine. It doesn't make any sense. But they need it, and so they could use Corona Enterprise to do that.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I think the one takeaway from all these conversations, I think, is that this is an object in motion. This whole thing, this is. You ever heard the I don't even know what the literary word is for it, but you ever heard of the phrase where you never step in the river in the same place twice? If a river's flowing down, it looks like this object. It looks like this thing. There's water. There's rocks. There's trees. There's whatever. It just looks like the static object. But you can never step in that same place twice. Even though you can go jump in the river, you can't step in that same place twice because the sand underneath is shifting. The rocks are moving. The water. It's not the same water as a second ago. And to me, that's what the app industry and Corona is all about. It's continually moving forward. So you shouldn't expect to stand in it. I
think that the industry in the last year has really been like that. Every other month there's going to be a new device, maybe a new OS version, maybe even a whole new platform, certainly new services. There's all sorts of stuff that is changing all the time.
Yeah, the end of the year was a good example of that. There was stuff from Google, there was stuff from Apple, there were phones, there was software, that was completely all outside of Corona. If you guys hadn't acted on those things and moved forward, just said, okay, this is where we're happy with where everything is today, then it wouldn't support iOS 6, it wouldn't support iPhone 5, all these things. So it's continually moving whether you want it to or not. And so I think that's important for everybody to remember, is that don't what my grandmother used to say is hide and watch. hide and watch, baby, hide and watch. All right, so hello, Mohamed. First of all, thanks for joining.
Hey guys.
Thanks for joining us. I know it's extremely late there.
Yeah, it's 1:45.
Quarter to one.
It's still alright.
Wow.
Us people, us in Corona Labs, we don't sleep. It's overrated.
That's right. It is overrated.
And I was going to mention this earlier, Charles. You mentioned the team, and what you mentioned in the context of ambassadors, that it was very international. The Corona Labs team itself, too. We mentioned that it's grown significantly in the last year, especially the last few months. And we are really all over the place. I mean, Mohamed and Ali are in Dubai. We've got 2 guys in Pakistan. We've got several spots in the U.S., including you. You're in Dallas or near Dallas. We really are, for our size, one of the more international companies I've ever encountered.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think 2013 is going to be a good year, a really good year.
Luckily, almost everyone else adjusts to our time zone here in California.
I do a lot of mental math these days as to what time is it and what time is it there and what time. I feel like one of those with the world clock thing, where they've got all the world clocks. It's all on my iPhone. Okay, well, let's talk about the Corona Geek and where it's going to go. What it is and where it's going to go, because it's joined the Corona Labs family. And so for anybody who's, like you say, maybe tuning in for the first time and doesn't understand what Corona Geek is, let's talk about that, and then let's talk about what everybody thinks it should be for 2013 as far as being a developer resource and stuff like that. So I'll kick off the Corona Geek, the background, and then we can talk about what you guys, how you see it, and things like that. So initially, for me, Corona Geek was an idea that people learn from each other, and there's a need for that. There's a need to put people together so that they can learn from each other, so they can fail faster, in a sense, in a positive way. Someone who's already been down the road of doing something can keep you from encountering that same problem, maybe speed up your development. If I can save you half an hour or an hour's worth of time, that's time out of your life that you could be doing something else. You could be much further down the road. And so I went to Google and went to YouTube specifically and looked for videos on Corona Labs and things like that. And I found a lot of videos that were interesting, but they were what I call silent movies. They were apps being displayed that people were kind of demoing their apps, but not really saying anything. And so that showed a lot of interest, but it didn't really communicate everything that was going on. I felt like with Corona, with the tool, what you could do with it, and things like that. So that's kind of where Corona Geek came from. This idea that there's a lot of people out there with information in their head that's valuable to someone, and that we needed to put it in action in a way that people could consume easily. And video is one of those ways. Because I can either read a tutorial and maybe spend 10-15 minutes reading that tutorial, going through the code, or I can watch a 5-minute video that shows me the code in action and gives me an insight as to whether or not I want to go down that path. And so I know in the past, working on websites and stuff like that, if I was going to implement a script into a website, I was much more likely to do that if I had an example or a demo or something that showed me what that script was going to do before I spent the time trying to implement it into my website and then figure out that it didn't work for me. And so that's really what I wanted Corona Geek to be, was just a place where you could kind of bring experts to the top, and we could speed up that development just like you do with the Corona SDK. So with that all said, David, Brian, Mohamed, and I think Walter. I don't know where Walter went.
Walter had to go get a power supply.
Yeah, right. So what do you guys think about it? What should Corona Geek be doing?
I was going to say I think you're right, and I think there's huge potential in doing more of this. And the way I think about it, you're right. If you looked at the videos that we had put out on our Corona Labs YouTube channel, they were very few, actually, especially recently, and like you said, just silent movies of like some sort of person walking through some code or something. And people, especially nowadays, just love to look at videos and learn through videos, or just find out or learn things. So I think there's huge potential there, and we just didn't have the bandwidth to do anything. We've thought about it in the past. We've thought that it'd be a good idea to do many things, and we just don't have the resources to do it. Even though now we're hiring people and everything, we're primarily hiring for engineers and things like that. So we just haven't done it. And I think with Corona Geek and bringing you on board is a fantastic opportunity to start doing a whole set of things in this area that help developers learn more about Corona, but not just Corona, just mobile development in general, and mobile marketing, and how to put apps out there and what the issues are. And it's just something that's going to help us form a much more vibrant community, even more so than now, because we are known for having a pretty large and active community, and people like it. But I think we can do so much more through something like Corona Geek.
If I can, I guess, jump in right after David. There are two things that I got excited about this the Corona Geek. Number one is the sort of the international nature of Corona SDK. I mean, like David was mentioning, we've got people from all over the globe. So having the reach, different languages, different levels of understanding. Most of our conversations are done in English. So having these videos, I think, just removes that barrier. Which I think is fantastic. That just shows that we are an open company, that all our information is available to anybody, regardless of where you are, what even timeline you're in. So as I said today, I'm completely on the other side of the world, yet I can still participate and be active in this. The other thing is, I think it sort of puts a human face to the Corona Labs team. Instead of having a forum label, with staff, people can see who we are. They can hear us speak. They can interact with us and actually, send comments and speak to us. I think that's sort of, on the other side, I think is very, very valuable. And I think that sort of extends Corona Labs culture, our attitude, the personality of Corona Labs comes out a lot clearer in this kind of format. So that's important for me, at least.
Yeah, very, very well put. Yeah, definitely. Okay.
And it's also going to be a way for a channel for putting the spotlight on other people besides the team, like Corona ambassadors, which you've already done to a large degree. But there's a lot more ambassadors and other developers doing great apps and great things, and even people that are not necessarily in the Corona community per se, but they're doing interesting things in mobile development. There's also room for that. So I think all of that will be a great thing to do.
Yeah. I'm going to post a link to a form where people can fill out if they are interested in being on the show. And I think that's a conversation we should definitely have. Here recently, I got a couple of tweets that we were talking. I was talking back and forth with a developer who said that they didn't feel like they had enough to say to be on the show, and because we had talked with book authors, we had talked with startups, we had talked with and they felt like, well, these people had these titles, so therefore they wouldn't be able to contribute something. And I say that's completely off base, and I want to do a better job, and that's probably my fault because I'm not as vocal sometimes as I need to be. But I want people not to have that perception, because this is really a developer resource. This is all about the developers. Corona Geek is about sitting around at a table with other geeks talking about the things that you're interested in, and all it takes is one nugget, one piece of information to, like I said before, save somebody half an hour, an hour's worth of time, or for them to have a completely new idea that they'd never had before. I mean, when we got Rob Allison on the show, and he was, we talked about his level editor and how he's got it connected to his app, and how you can go online and create a level completely custom and then share it with other people to be able to play this game. I had never thought of that before. I mean, I had never put it together, and he's got the perfect example of how he's done it and what's possible. And I think that kind of energy and enthusiasm is something that anybody can bring to the table. It doesn't matter whether they've written 100 apps, or they've just they're still writing their first app. If they've got something to talk about, then they're open. They have an open invitation to be on the show. So there you go. There's my thoughts. Take that. All right. So what else? We got about 6 minutes left, and I want to just kind of briefly go over the fact that what's going to happen to all the resources. I think this is a kind of a good way to kind of end things here. We've got the Corona Geek website. We've got the Facebook, the YouTube, the Twitter, Google Plus, these Hangouts, all that kind of stuff like that. So here's what people need to know is we're still going to do a weekly show. And I like having the weekly show because it gives somebody a bit of consistency. They know that, oh, hey, it's Monday. Monday at 2 o'clock is when the live show is, and if I can't make it, I know that it's going to be rebroadcast, and I can go to YouTube and I can watch it. So those things are going to stay the same. Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, they're all going to stay the same. YouTube, we're still talking about whether it should live here or there, but it's still going to be YouTube. There's still going to be the videos are going to be rebroadcast and things like that. So for the most part, all those types of things are going to be there. The Corona Geek, blog posts and updates and stuff like that are going to go through Corona Labs, and so basically, you're going to be able to find that information on the Corona Labs website. And then if you have a question about some kind of geeky thing or whatever, you can talk to Corona Geek. You can hit us up on Twitter or Facebook or Google Plus or whatever to talk about the geeky stuff. And so that's kind of the way things are kind of breaking down right now. So we're going to have a transition period over the next week or so. We're already in, things are already in motion, but we're still, it's like moving into a house. All the boxes are in, okay, but nobody knows where the forks and knives are. And so as soon as we find that box, the kitchen box, we're going to put everything away in the kitchen. So we're still doing that. So expect a little bit of flux here and there. The podcast is going to remain. We've got a lot of positive feedback from people who like listening to the podcast. There's people with drive time. They want to sit at their desk. They want to work. When they work out at the gym, they want to listen to the podcast. And so that's going to be still available through iTunes, or you can listen to it on the Stitcher app, which a lot of people have said they like listening to it through the Stitcher app because they don't have to download or manage files, and they can just have it streamed to their device. So we're still going to continue to do all that. So all of that's going to remain the same, and which I think is going to make it easy for people to find Corona Geek and be able to find information, the information that they're looking for. So I just want to say that out loud so that everybody knows kind of what's going on. People can also contact us through coronageek@coronalabs.com, which is going to be the official email address for that, so that if you have a question and you don't necessarily want to ask it publicly, you can send that question. And like if you want to be on the show or you want to discuss some aspect of that, you can send an email. So that's going to be a good thing. But for the most part, I just want to reemphasize the fact that this is the developer show. This is for you guys. This is your show. So we need you to tell us what you want to talk about. I mean, we've got a pretty good idea from from the forums, from just individual conversations, from our own understanding of where somebody comes in when they get started, all of those types of things. But this isn't a conversation that we're trying to push information. This is a conversation. This is where we're trying to have an interaction. So you guys need to tell us what you want to hear, what you want to see, who you want to talk to, all those types of things, so that we can go out there and pull that together and bring it here for you. Is that reasonably accurate? Am I on base here?
I think you're definitely right. That's absolutely what we want, and we want people to tell us what they'd love to hear. And like I said before, and you said too, this is really about getting developers to interact with, again, not just us and the team and ambassadors, but also with other developers. And we want Corona Geek to be a really valuable resource for developers that are building mobile apps.
Yeah.
It's not just about Corona. It's just about having something, a resource that is valuable to them. Is basically how I put it.
Very good. Very good. Well, cool. Well, I think we're done for the day. Does anybody have anything else they want to share?
The last thing I'd say is, we forgot to mention at the beginning when we went over what happened in 2012. We also mentioned that we didn't mention that the company raised new funding, which usually no one really cares about and developers don't care. But I think it just shows it's from the same investors that invested in the company initially, and it just shows that the company's doing well, and that the investors that put in money before are confident in the future of the company and see a lot of potential. And so we're very excited about that, and it's let us grow even more, and that's why we're getting a little more active around hiring people, and especially engineers, and that'll continue into the new year. It's actually hard to hire engineers here in Silicon Valley, but we're trying. We're really trying. And the goal is to just ramp up the team even further so that we can do more and more things and make Corona truly the best platform out there to build not just mobile apps, but any sort of great interactive content.
Well, very good. Yeah, I think it's an exciting time to be involved in the mobile app industry, and as well be involved in Corona Labs. I think this is, everything starts from a seed, and you water the seed, and the plant grows, and then eventually everything gets stronger and it gets bigger, and that's, I don't know where that analogy is going, but Corona Labs is right there with it's an exciting time to be a part of this whole thing, because I think that because the app industry, iPhones have been around for 5 years? Is it 5 years now? 5 years? Somewhere in there?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
We think that it's mature, and okay, well, here it is. This is what it is, but it's not, and there's just so much more ahead. So I think that when people look back, they'll go, "Oh yeah, you remember when we used to have rotary phones, and remember when we, you know." So I think it'll be funny. Remember when you had the bag phone, and it had the antenna on your car, you know, and you.
Well, and Charles, the other thing to think about there is only about 50% of people in countries like the U.S. and Europe have smartphones.
Oh yeah.
Right, and a lot of that are smartphones that are 3-4 years old and don't run apps all that well. So the number of people that really have some of the latest smartphones that are running actively apps and all this stuff is really less than half the people in developed countries. And if you go to developing countries, it's much less. And so that just shows you that this whole thing is really just starting, because you know that eventually everyone will be doing this stuff. So we're not even halfway there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think you're right.
We're still approaching puberty here.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, Charles, I just want to say that I don't know, just a quick announcement that Ali and I, the Corona Cloud guys, are going to be in the Bay Area towards the end of Jan for about 3 weeks. So if any developers are in the Bay Area, it'd be great to catch up for coffee, hang out, pick our brains on what we're doing and stuff. We'll be more than happy to meet up with people, so drop us a note.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, maybe we could organize a meetup or something. That would be cool.
And I think as part of that, we're doing this big global game jam. I think several ambassadors around the world are doing it. We're doing one here in the Bay Area. I think we're the official sponsor. Is that right, David?
Yes, for the San Francisco location, we're the main sponsor.
And when is that? What date is that?
That is the weekend of January 25.
Okay, I think we need to do a show around that, maybe, or at least a segment. Get somebody on the show and talk about about it, because it's an interesting topic. So, okay, well, great, well, good deal. 2013, it's gonna be a big year.
Happy New Year!
Yeah, Happy New Year! It's gonna be a big deal. So, everybody check all the show notes for all the links and stuff. I'll share all that stuff out. And thanks for joining us here today. Thanks for being with us, and we'll talk with you soon.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.